It is being held as an historic day in the mountains of eastern Kentucky.
Nearly 4,000 people turned out to watch as state fish and wildlife officials released 7 elk into the woods, hoping to replenish a herd that's been lost for more than a decade. The release occurred at the Cypress Amex Wildlife Refuge in Perry County.
We project if population is stable based on 3 years of stocking, we could see a 4 to 6 animal hunt in the second or third year.
Here we are in 2013, and it's a massive success story. We've been able to restore a species in 15 years and have unbelievable success. It's got to be like an awesome feeling to be able to, say, yeah, we can hunt elk. Very simply, elk are returning home. I'm just in shock right now because I'm still haven't set in that I'm elk hunting in Kentucky. It's like the strangest place I've ever elk hunted in my life. Like I don't even know. Like I've deer hunted here and turkey hunted in places like this, but I have never elk hunted in places like this. So there's like your body, like right now, like I just feel like it's like I feel like I'm elk hunting on the moon, and there's not supposed to be elk on the moon. I didn't think it would feel as weird, and it feels really strange. I'll just kind of set out and stake out here behind these rocks. What are we, almost 6 o'clock?
5:45, so we've got
almost an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. In central Kentucky, there was a kind of an open landscape they now call the Bluegrass Savanna, and it was teeming with elk and bison and wild turkey and all kinds of deer, of course.
Back in the early to mid-1800s, pioneers, settlers coming in, they overhunted them. All the elk were gone. But now, here we are, and it's a massive success story. A collaborative effort of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation with states such as Kentucky have now been able to bring a certain number of animals and repopulate this area. So what year did the restoration actually begin in Kentucky?
The first elk hit the ground in 97.
After more than a century, elk are once again roaming the recreation area.
It's kind of ironic because it was human migration, the settlement of this area over 100 years ago, that pushed the elk out, and here we are back today welcoming them back.
The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation members here in the state of Kentucky are the most dynamic volunteers in the country, and I want to just thank you all. I'm thrilled to be a part of this effort. Celebrate and enjoy what you've done.
So this has been a kind of expensive project, too.
Well, it's a project we could not have undertaken without the $900,000 commitment from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. That will pay for the first 3 years of the program.
As we mentioned, more elk releases are planned in the weeks ahead.
That's a pretty phenomenal success story, pretty phenomenal numbers when you look at it. To be able to go, in basically a 10-year span, once the restoration was stopped at 1,500 animals, to be able to go from that number, and then 11 years later you have 10,000 animals and a very successful hunting season.
The state's done a nice job at trying to manage this herd, so we're very, very fortunate.
I'm ready to see one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm ready to see my first eastern elk. Hunting elk out west is day and night from hunting elk in Kentucky.
I mean, there's a tree right here that's been wore out. The branches on this tree behind us right here are broken.
Yeah, he's in there.
When they decide that they're not in breeding mode, or the rut as we call it, and they're in rest mode, they're in rest mode, and they're just going to lock up, and they're not going to say anything.
Well, I just wish I could get one to just get it, if I could get an answer out of him, you know?
Yeah.
And if I just wonder if it's, you know, if it's thick like this all the way down through there, it'd be impossible to see.
They say there's 10,000. When you look at the landscape and you see how thick and steep and rugged this country is, I don't know that anybody can put a number on that, because the habitat's so incredible in the east. And I'm not saying the habitat's bad out west, it's just different. You know, these bulls here have right at their fingertips food, water, and cover. They don't have to deal with 20 feet of snowpack. They don't have to migrate to the high desert. They just live right here.
With that little bottom flat part down there and kind of this bowl, and I mean, just, you know, not to mention the rubs and the tracks, I mean, you can tell that they're using this area. I mean, we'll kind of put this in our memory bank, you know.
Stick it in our pocket.
For sure. Okay.
One of the things I think has made the restoration so successful in Kentucky is the lack of predation. You have some black bears, you don't have wolves, you don't have mountain lions, you have a controlled coyote population, and the biggest predator that elk have here are hunters. That translates into a lot of really good things for elk. When a hunter is the only predator that elk really see, look at what it's been able to do. Our North American model of conservation is based on hunters. You've been able to go from 1,500 animals being released into a very short 10-year span of now having over 10,000. But yet we've been hunting them since 2003 in this area of Kentucky, and the numbers continue to climb.
That's the first bull that I've seen since I've been, I mean, you know, really, that we could have shot. And I'm definitely not here trophy hunting by any means. I would, you know, I'd like to give the babies a chance to grow up.
I agree.
I just chose to pass. I just thought it was probably more appropriate to let him go, but you know, it just was what it was. Maybe in the end it works out and I'm able to take a bigger bull. We're here today with Will Bowling from the Kentucky Department of Wildlife and Fish Resources, correct?
Yes,
Is that the official title? He's one of the biologists that's assigned to the elk program, and this is the area now where the elk come to when you guys capture them, and that we take and release in the other states.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We partnered with several other states over the last few years, Virginia, Missouri. We bring them to this facility that we're at today and do a round of disease testing and actually hold the animals for a quarantine period to make sure that we're sending healthy animals out. The Kentucky elk restoration has been a very successful project, and really much of the reason that we feel it has been so successful is from the support of the Elk Foundation and our other partners as well back in the early years. We've really raised our tag numbers. That is one of our primary means of controlling our elk population here in Kentucky. So we are using our hunters as conservation tools to maintain our herd where we like it to be.
Hunters bring in funding, hunters take care of habitat, and hunters do all the things that hunters do to protect the animals that they love to hunt. So at the end of the day, hunters are changing the entire game for elk restoration, especially in a place like Kentucky. It was a tough week. We kind of tried to go and do it on our own, and then finally we got to the last couple of days, and I told Bill, I was like, man, we just need to call somebody that lives here and knows this place and see if they will help us for the last day and a half that we have. So we called Don Thomas. Really happy to have you on Team Elk.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Congratulations making your Team Elk appearance today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, let's go over here and get off this point before it gets any later.
We just wanted a little bit of guidance on what was maybe some new ground, since the hunting was so different than it had been in years past.
It can be some strenuous and one of the hardest hunts you can get into when you get off the side of these mountains. These elk are starting to adapt a little more. They're starting to stay in the timber. You're going to have to go after them. It's going to be like a out west hunt here.
It just seems like everywhere you go, I mean, like, they've been mining coal forever. I mean, for a long time. You know, one of the really cool things about this area that makes the habitat so incredible are the reclaimed coal mines. And as they're done mining, they have to go in and they have to reclaim the area, and it is unbelievable habitat for the wildlife.
It has been a fact of life here for years and years and years. The elk have really been able to take advantage of that circumstance here in Kentucky. It's been kind of a perfect storm of good conditions that have enabled elk to be restored here.
We need to make a plan.
Best plan we have right now. Drop off this point, pick up this lower bench, just hit the timber.
It looks like I'm going to be breathing hard at some point today.
Probably.
This is one of the toughest places I've ever hunted elk, where they can just feed and never come out of the woods, ever. So when you may have 10,000 animals, if they're all living in the trees and they're never coming out and they're just kind of bedding up, resting up after that big rut push, they're really hard to find, and it's made this rifle season a very, very tough hunt in Kentucky. We were supposed to be on our midday break, and then you got restless in camp and you decided you wanted to come check some spots.
Yeah.
And
about 2:30, right up here on the left. Went up there, stepped over the edge, whistled at him, he blowed off, cut me off. He was right up here. Give him time, he's had his break.
Well, I'm glad at least one of us isn't lazy, because I'll admit it, because I mean, you know what I mean, I was kind of like, I was kind of laughing at you, because I thought,
you're not going to kill him on the cot. Get that. He's about 75 yards up behind that log pile when he bugled. Get him.
He's done. He's done. He's done. He's done.
Is he down?
I'm scared to see how steep it is on the other side of that bench. My gosh. This ought to be good. He absolutely went to the bottom of the canyon. You gotta be kidding.
I hear your legs right there.
Oh. Boy, let me tell you, we're gonna go down there and put our hands on him, but look, I'm gonna tell y'all something. Y'all go ahead and keep putting in for this Kentucky tag, because when you draw it, you're gonna be able to kill a good bull. But if you think you're just gonna stroll in here and smoke one and you just go lollygag around, don't believe it. They got a lot of elk here and they got a lot of good ones. But you see this? This thick, hardwood, big nut-bearing trees, you gotta go get them.
He's hooked up pretty good right there.
Yeah, he's hooked up real good.
He started way up there.
Yep. It's been a crazy week in Kentucky. I mean, they were lockjawed and locked down, and it is the last afternoon. In fact, it's 5:20 right now. I'd pick his head up and show him the rest of you because he's got his third buried in the ground right there. But if I move him out of this tree, it's going to be bad news for all of us because we're standing on a 45 right now, I promise you. You know, this is what it's about, bringing elk back to their native habitat in Kentucky, and they've got some great bulls, and we were really lucky to put the work on one this week. It took a lot of work and a lot of hard hunting. Like I said earlier, if you think you're just going to sail into Kentucky and it's, you know, going to be like a cruise ship vacation or something like that, it's not. You're going to have to hunt, but it is well worth it, and awesome stuff. Glad we got a really good mature bull here in Kentucky. It's awesome. Overhunting and habitat loss wiped out Kentucky's elk herds by the mid-1800s. But in 1997, the RMEF and Kentucky's Department of Fish and Wildlife began a restoration project that would change the face of hunting in the East. They brought them back. 1,500 elk were released over a 5-year period, and today that number stands at 10,000. Because of great volunteers, the state of Kentucky, and of course the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, people like you and I are able to hunt such an amazing animal once again in the East. This is what you can do when you get involved. Join the RMEF today at rmef.org. And remember that hunting is conservation.